the Intercontinental Championship history. I remember seeing that match. I even had the opportunity to see Helmsley and Mark Merrow compete at a live event in 1996 for the first time for the Intercontinental Championship. The end result of the match was Hunter Hearst Helmsley losing by disqualification, but managing to retain the title. I think that the Intercontinental Championship has meant so much to this industry, and I hope that they really don't drop the ball with such a fantastic angle. This time next year, it could be Randy Orton versus Cody Rhodes for the WWE Championship at WrestleMania. It could even be Randy Orton versus Cody Rhodes in an Intercontinental Championship versus World Heavyweight Championship match. Who knows? The first World Heavyweight Championship versus Intercontinental Championship match since Hulk Hogan and the Ultimate Warrior brought so much to WrestleMania 6 from Toronto, Canada, when the two titles were on the line in the same match, and the Warrior actually defeated Hogan, holding the Intercontinental Championship and the WWE title in its original form back in the early 1990s. I believe it was 1992 that happened. That was a great match. The Ultimate Warrior came out on top and held both titles on the same night, and held both titles for a significant amount of time before his career really started to go downhill, and it was the inspiration for the Self-Destruction of the Ultimate Warrior DVD. That match is actually profiled on that DVD if you've seen it. I think it's great, and if you don't believe me, you should try to find a vintage copy of the history of the IC Championship. Many people have held it. Some of professional wrestling's greats have held it. Bret Hart, the Macho Man Randy Savage, Mr. Perfect, Rick Martel. They've all held the title. They've had an opportunity to hold it, and they've made the most of the opportunities they've been handed with. In your opinion, who do you think is the greatest Intercontinental Champion of all time? Is it the Honky Tonk Man holding the title for over 454 days? The Macho Man Randy Savage holding the title for over 400 days? Randy Orton holding the title for over 400 days? As I said, if you've held the title over 400 days, it seems like you're automatically considered one of the greatest IC champions of all time. Do you believe that to be true? And who do you think is the greatest Intercontinental Champion of all time, speaking from your perspective? I'd love to hear your opinion at Facebook.com Jonathan Clarke and YouTube.com Jonathan Clarke 22, where the history of the Intercontinental Championship perspective will be available on YouTube.com Jonathan Clarke 22. Leave us your comments as to who you believe is the greatest Intercontinental Champion of all time, and you can also find us on Twitter. Follow me at HEW Entertainment, Jonathan Clarke 1, to get status updates from our website sent directly to your Twitter wall in RRS format. I think the greatest Intercontinental Champion of all time definitely was probably the Macho Man Randy Savage, because he definitely showed how much the Intercontinental Championship means to a person's career, winning it and then going on to win the WWE Championship at WrestleMania 4 after winning 4 matches in one night to win the WrestleMania 4 Championship Tournament, defeating Ted DiBiase, another individual who I remarkably interviewed several years ago, and he talked very highly of the Macho Man Randy Savage, and I'll never forget that tribute show they put together for the Macho Man earlier this year. It was a tribute package. I do believe they started up both Raw and SmackDown the week of his death with the same tribute package, and actually showed up multiple times throughout the show, because the Macho Man, I believe, was one individual who's no longer with us that meant so much to the wrestling business, just as much as Guerrero or Benoit probably even more. I would have to say more. But definitely, the Intercontinental Championship has been held by some of professional wrestling's greats, but probably the greatest Intercontinental Champion, in my opinion, was Shawn Michaels, because some of his best matches with the likes of Razor Ramon and Jeff Jarrett came from defending the Intercontinental Championship. Even matches he had with Sid Justice before they had that major WWE Championship match in November of 1996 in the main event of the Survivor Series, ending Shawn Michaels' near 8-month reign as the WWE Champion. Some of Shawn Michaels' greatest matches were even fought with Bret Hart in cages before that match for the title at WrestleMania 12 in 1996. Some of the greatest Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels matches were over the Intercontinental Championship. So I definitely think one of the greatest Intercontinental Champions of all time had to have been Shawn Michaels, and it's because some of his best matches actually came from defending the Intercontinental Championship. Some of his best matches came from defending the WWE title as well. But definitely some of his best matches that are featured on Shawn Michaels' DVD releases now came from defending the Intercontinental Championship, and definitely catapulted him to being one of the greatest 5-time WWE champions in history. I think Shawn Michaels is one of the greatest Intercontinental Champions of all time. I have interviewed the self-proclaimed greatest Intercontinental Champion of all time, the Honky Tonk Man. I enjoyed interviewing him. To find that interview, you can actually find it on Google by typing in Jonathan Clarke interviews the Honky Tonk Man, or you can find it on YouTube by typing in Jonathan Clarke versus interviews the Honky Tonk Man. I think you will find that quite entertaining. I almost said there, Jonathan Clarke versus the Honky Tonk Man. I'd love to see that match over the original Intercontinental title. That would be a crowning moment in my career. But type it in on YouTube, Jonathan Clarke interviews the Honky Tonk Man. You will find it. The interview is about an hour long. He did it when he was loaded drunk, but it was an entertaining interview. I found it quite entertaining because he talked about the Ultimate Warrior a lot. He talked about being the greatest Intercontinental Champion of all time, and he did the interview actually in character, which I found quite unique. And when a wrestler does it in character, they kind of get carried away with it. But the Honky Tonk Man doing an interview in character is absolutely priceless. It was funny, it was entertaining, and I'd love to interview the Honky Tonk Man sometime down the road, although unfortunately I don't think it's going to happen because the Honky Tonk Man's getting up there in age, and all he does now is make autograph appearances and wrestles at a scattered independent show, and that's unfortunate, you know. Greatest Intercontinental Champion of all time, gone to wrestling in front of 12 to 15 people now. But I've had the opportunity to interview him. I enjoyed doing that. I definitely think he's one of the greatest Intercontinental Champions of all time. Wayne Ferris, current Reverend Preacher, and a great guy, great family man, knows how to separate professional wrestling from reality, and it's always great when you can meet somebody who actually knows how to separate professional wrestling from reality, because believe me when I tell you, there are some people out there that just can't do that. Jimmy Jacobs from Ring of Honor, ROHWrestling.com, is one guy who I talked about in my column in this corner, Jonathan Clarke, who just can't separate professional wrestling from reality. There are a lot of people who can't do that. There is an endless list of names who are unable to do that, but Wayne Ferris, a.k.a. the Honky Tonk Man, greatest IC champion of all time, definitely can do that. Ted DiBiase is another one who can do that. Rick Martel, not so much. Jimmy Jacobs, not so much. But when you always interview someone who can separate professional wrestling from reality just as Wayne Ferris can, it's always fun. So definitely, I'd love to hear your opinion on the IC Championship, what it's meant to the business to you. You can find me on Twitter, MySpace, YouTube, and Facebook, and join the conversation. Until then, I guess what we've had to say about the Intercontinental Championship and the restoration of the title to its original form has been said. You can find this video on YouTube at youtube.com, Jonathan Clarke 22. It will be available on Twitter because we've installed this application to both our YouTube and our Twitter account, where our videos from youtube.com, Jonathan Clarke 22, are automatically posted on our Twitter account to increase traffic to our YouTube channel at Jonathan Clarke 22. I like the installation of this application because it connects both our Twitter and our YouTube accounts together, increasing traffic to both websites and social networks. You can find all the links to our Facebook, our MySpace, our YouTube, and our Twitter accounts by clicking on social networks at the top of the website. So thank you so much for checking out this week's installment of the program, taking a look at Cody Rhodes restoring some prestigiousness to the Intercontinental Championship for the first time in about 15 years, and I only hope that WWE tries to restore some prestigiousness to the original titles that they've had in the past. I mean, the U.S. titles meant so much to the business. The WWE Championship, when it was just known as the WWE Championship and not the Spinner Belt, definitely meant a lot to the business because only 40 wrestlers over the last 50 years have held it. Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels, The Miz, The Undertaker. I don't even know why I classified The Miz as one of the greatest of all time. Maybe because he is. Becoming the SmackDown host and then going from being the SmackDown host to main eventing WrestleMania 27 is definitely amazing. But I definitely think The Undertaker, Stone Cold Steve Austin, Bret Hart have meant so much to the WWE title, and there's no reason why that title shouldn't be restored to its original form, just as the IC title recently was by second-generation wrestler Cody Rhodes. So I think it's great, and hopefully WWE will make the most of the opportunities they're handed with. This is a great opportunity for not only the people holding the Intercontinental title, but the Intercontinental Championship division as a whole. Send us your opinion, hewrestling@hotmail.com, and send us your news by clicking on the Send Us Your Wrestling News button found in our news center. Install with a bit of HTML coding which always seems to get on my nerves. Until I talk to you again, enjoy what they're doing with the Intercontinental Championship as long as it lasts. I don't think it's going to last for long, although I'd love to see it last for a significant amount of time. And I'll check in with you next week. Until then, I'm Jonathan Clarke.
On behalf of every wrestler who wanted to be hardcore more than they wanted to be a superstar, on behalf of everyone who lived the dream, fought the fight, and never gave up hope, the tribe of extreme has risen again! This time we're going to pour our Kool-Aid down the throats of a new global audience that's going to learn that it all started here tonight. We're on pay-per-view tonight. We're back on national TV in a lot better deal than we used to have on Sci-Fi this Tuesday night. Guys, this didn't happen because of Paul Heyman. This didn't happen because of Vince McMahon. This happened because of you.